Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Oxygen for the Soul. This week's parasha is Parashat Vayigash. You can't begin this parasha without spending some time understanding and reading the Midrashim. The Midrashim over here are super deep, super profound. Speak about Yehuda and the power that is coursing through his veins, ready to crush all of Egypt and go to war to defend his brother. And it's interesting because when you look back at the last Parashat Miketz, right? And he says, Vayomer Yehuda, Ma nomar la'adoni. Yehuda says, what can we say to my Lord? Ma nedaber, ma nistadak. What can we speak and how can we justify ourselves? Elokim matza et avon. God had found our sin. Avdecha hineni avadim la'adoni. Your servants, here we are, slaves, la'adoni. My Lord, gam anachnu gam asher nimtza higvia biyado. And also that one that was found to have had the goblet in his hands. At this point, there's nothing Yehuda can do. He's lost for words. What can we speak? What can we say? He's lost for words. He can't say anything over here. He's stuck, right? And then all of a sudden, in this week's parasha, it starts off with Vayigash elav Yehuda. This is not just him coming close to share, a whisper in his ear. This is him preparing to go ahead and decimate Yosef, or at least what he thinks is the viceroy of Egypt, and to take over the circumstance and the situation so he could free his brother Binyamin. And the question is, what changed? Why is it that up until now, Yehuda has no words, and then all of a sudden, he has this newfound power to get up and speak and share and conquer? Where did it come from? So the Chachamim say like this: up until this point, Yehuda realizes that the viceroy of Egypt is being harsh. And he also is remembering right now that he made a promise which was different than Reuven. Remember, Reuven says to Yaakov, we're going to take the boy down, and if anything happens, the boy, my children will die as a result of me not bringing back Binyamin. Yaakov says, no, I'm not interested in that. Yehuda says, no, I'm going to take responsibility for this boy. And if God forbid anything happens, I will be a sinner to you and to God all my days. And at that point, Yehuda agrees. Yaakov agrees. Now, in this week's parasha, something changes. And the Chamim point this out. What changes like this? From last week's parasha, Yehuda thought that he had a plan that would actually allow him to swap himself out for his brother, okay? And it's not working, right? It's not working. He's realizing that he has to amp up the game, and he's starting to internalize a little bit, oh my gosh, like there's actually a scenario where my brother will be lost to this viceroy. This whole entire situation is ridiculous. Why would I want to go ahead and submit myself to this guy? And when he finally takes full ownership over the situation that he is in, then finally he has what we call the siyata d'shmaya, the clarity necessary to move forward. How often in life do we find ourselves in situations where we want certain things and we're stuck? Like we're not moving anywhere. We have doubt, uncertainty. There's a lack of clarity, and we just feel like we're stuck. And the truth is that often, I believe, happens and comes from a place of lack of clarity, where when we don't have clarity where we want to go, when it's not clear what we want, or when we haven't fully, this is the key word, committed to the things that we want, we're always going to be stuck in a place called limbo or uncertainty. You see, we're afraid of making commitments simply because we think there's going to be other opportunities, or we want to go ahead and resolve all the uncertainties. And that's not how life works. You see, Yehuda gets what we call siyata d'shmaya, a special level of clarity, only when he commits to the situation. And until then, he's at a loss for words. He doesn't know what to say. But once he's fully committed, boom, Vayigash, he's ready to explode with energy. And this is true for ourselves, my friends. When we are living a life of uncertainty and doubt, when we're in a situation where it's very hard to commit, it's only through the act of committing that we get the clarity that we actually need. But until then, If you're a spectator waiting for something to change, you'll always be stuck waiting and waiting and waiting. It's only when Yehuda commits to the situation that he's in, boom, he has this explosive boost of energy, and now he's ready to go ahead and confront this viceroy or his brother Yosef. And he goes through it. He says, "V'neomar Adoni yesh lanu ab zaken v'yeled zekunim katan." We have a father who's old, and he had a child at his old age. V'achav, and his brother died. V'yivater hu levado, and he left him alone. Le'imo aviv ahavo, from his mother and his father that loved him. V'tomar avdecha. And he says, then you said to your servants, bring him down to me. V'asima enai elav, and I said, I'm going to protect him. V'nomar Adoni, I'm telling you, my master, Lo yuchal hanar lazov et aviv. This boy cannot leave his father behind. He cannot leave his father behind. But if he does, he will die. The father will die. But Tomer elavdecha. He says, but you said to your servants, Im lo yered achichem. He does not come down to your brother, Sakaton, who is youngest, Idchem, with you. Lo tosifun lirodat panai. You won't see my face anymore. So Yehuda is making this case over here, like, hey, you set this up for us. V'yihi ki alenu. And it was when we went up to our father, and we told him what had happened. V'yomar avinu shuva shuvru lanu ma'al ochal. He just said, come back and go buy some food, and let's get out of here already. But we said, no, lo nuchal l'redet im yesh lanu. We can't go down without Binyamin, without the younger little brother. And then we told our father, Atem yiratem kishnayim yaldatali ishti. Yaakov says to them, Yehuda is telling this over to Yosef. Can you imagine? Yosef is hearing the speech. Yehuda is going through the whole story. He's hearing everything about what's happening at the house with his father. And this one has gone away, Yaakov says. And I presumed, Taraf, that he has been torn to pieces. Talk about Yosef. Now I'm not going to see the other one. And you're going to take this one also from before me? And God forbid something will happen to Voratem, and then you're gonna bring him down at Shivati Barasho Allah. I don't understand what do you want, Yaakov is saying? You want to take this other boy away from me? He's all I have of Rachel. And if it happens that when he sees that the boy, Benjamin, does not return with us, and your servants will go back down at Sevat Avdecha, to the old age of your servant, Davinu, our father, Yagon She'ela, in sorrow to the grave. Ki Avdecha Arav et Hanar. Because I guaranteed this youth, Me'im Avi, onto my father, saying, Im lo avienu alecha. If I don't bring him back to you, V'chatati la'avi kol hayamim, then I will have sinned to my father all my days. Yehuda, my friends, is all in. He's saying that no matter what the situation is, I am going to take full responsibility. And because of his ability to be fully focused on the situation that he is in, he is ready to go to war. And he's standing up. He's not backing down right now. He's roaring. The Midrashim say at this point, Yehuda's chest hairs open up like knives ripping off his shirt, and then he's roaring, and like he's terrifying all of Egypt. He's this menacing individual. How are we going to go up to my father without the young boy? What do you want me to do over here? Let I see that there's a tragedy that befell my father. Yosef is bold. He can't hold it anymore. He's emotional. He's playing this game for so long, and now he can't hold back. Yosef is unable to restrain himself. He can't hold back. The kol hanatzimiv he can't hold back from all the people that are there. V'yikrahu tziu kol ish me'alai. He shouts out and says, "Everybody, get out of the room." V'lo amad ish ito. There was no one that stood with him. V'hitvadah Yosef al achiv. And Yosef was about to reveal himself to his brothers. Now you have to remember this whole situation isn't just Yehuda, sitting there with a bunch of Egyptians in some private room. This is the case. This is like the O.J. Simpson case in Egypt. Everyone is watching this case unfold. This is Viceroy is the second most powerful man in Egypt. All of the aristocratic community is paying attention. They're listening to what's happening over here with this interesting case with Yosef and these brothers. No one knows what's going on. This whole thing is fascinating. This is drama. This is Egyptian drama unfolding. And he clears everybody out of the room, and I'm sure all the servants are curious to what's happening in there. But they don't have to be that curious. Why? V'yiten et kolo bebechi. Yosef gives out a weeping cry. V'yishma'u Mitzrayim v'yishma beParo. And they heard, all of Egypt heard it. And the household of Paro, they heard this cry. Why is the viceroy of Egypt, why is he crying? What's the problem? What went wrong? Vayomer Yosef el achav, ani Yosef, I am Yosef, ha'od avi chai. I am Yosef, is my father still alive? This is the best part. These words are so profound. Velo yochluhu echav la'anototo, ki nivhalu mipanav. His brothers were unable to answer him because they were nivhalu, they were dismayed, they were shocked. You're Joseph this whole time? Vayomer Yosef says to his brothers, Alachiv, Geshuna elai, come close please to me. This is a different, this word Geshu is a different kind of Vayigash elav. Yehuda's coming up to get close to kill Yosef. And now Yosef says, Geshuna elai, come close to me over here. V'yishu, and they came close. Vayomer, and he said, Ani Yosef achichem, I am Joseph, your brother. Asher machartem oti miMitzrayim, that you sold me into Egypt. Va'ata, and now, al te'atzvu, don't be upset, don't be sad. Va'al yachar, and don't be angry. Be'enechem, in your eyes. Ki machartem oti, because you sold me. Hineh, to this place. Ki l'nchiyah shalachthani okim lefanai, because God sends me here as a way of sustaining us. He put me here for these 2 years to get ahead of the famine and to protect us from this famine. God has sent me ahead of you to establish for you a remnant, right, in his land, to sustain us, for this great deliverance. Yosef is not bearing a grudge. He's so confident in his ability to recognize that God had protected him, that God is giving him what he needs to survive in this place, that everything that happened, all the bad, all the challenge that he went through was for a reason. Where does he get that kind of clarity from? And then more than that, the brothers are shocked, they're astonished. They had no idea that this was Yosef. So interestingly, if you look back at the beginning of the parasha, it says, Vayigash elav Yehuda v'yomer, and he says, Bi Adoni, if you please, my Lord. That word, Bi Adoni, not typical. And there are some Midrashim say that Yehuda figured it out already. He recognized that this person is something more than just a regular viceroy. He has a suspicion that he is Yosef. Bi is Gematria 12. My 12, Bi Adoni daberna. The 12 of us are here speaking to you, he's saying, in a roundabout way. Yehuda's figuring it out. But even if he was somewhat suspicious, he wasn't fully aware. The Midrashim say that had Yosef played out this scenario a little bit longer, the brothers, the impact that this would have had on the brothers would have been so profound, the shock level would have been so great that their souls would have been blown out of their bodies. That's how emotionally draining this whole thing was. That's how profound this experience was for them. And this is a very deep idea. Our rabbis tell us that this whole situation of them getting this kind of clarity is a moment for us to consider within our own lives. We go through life not seeing how the circumstances that we're in are guiding us towards a particular type of mission, place. We just focus on the challenge. We focus on the hardships. We focus on the difficulties that we have. We don't stop and think about how the situation that we're in is somehow bringing us towards something. The brothers thought they were doing the right thing, and they had this one moment where, boom, complete clarity. I can't believe all these years we were wrong. Our brother, we sold him here. We feel horrible about the whole thing. There's a moment of clarity and a shock. This is a form of Gehenom. This is a form of hell. What do I mean? When you live your whole life thinking one thing and you find out at the end of it that really it's something else, that, my friends, is hell. I could have, should have lived a different life. I could have, should have made different kinds of decisions. I have regret. This regret is what's coursing through the minds and the veins of the brothers at this moment in time. They are shocked, utterly shocked. And we're going to have a moment too, when our souls depart from our bodies and they go up to heaven. We're going to have this Ani Yosef Ha'od Avi Chai. I am Joseph, is my father still alive? Now look at this. Look at these words over here. Okay, there's several things over here that are so profound that I want to go back to. So on the one hand, we have this clarity, and the clarity will come, God willing, in time. But listen to what Yehuda says over here. V'ne'emar el Adoni. And we said to my man, Lo yuchal hanar lazov et avi. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Ne'emar el Adoni, yesh lanu av zaken v'yelad zukanim katan v'achiv meid. No. Sorry, I can't find it. I can't find it. Here it is. The Musar teachers teach us like this: "Is v'ne'emar lo el Adoni lo yuchal hanar la'azov et aviv v'azav et aviv v'met." Right? V'tomer elav v'decha im lo yered achichem hakaton itchem lo tasvin lirot hanai. This idea of having a child and making sure that you can't leave a child behind is a profound message that is in the Pesukim over here, that we have a responsibility of educating the next generation. We have a responsibility of not just sending our kids away to good schools, but to ensuring that when we live our 120 years, that we don't leave our children behind. And that's part of the message over here of Yehuda. It's apropos that it's coming from him, who is the Melech, the king of the Jewish people, to have this feeling, this deep sense of responsibility for the Jewish people, saying that there is no one we're leaving behind. We have a responsibility of bringing every single Jew back. Certainly, it's even more true for parents to their children. No child left behind. So Yosef Yehuda is ready to go ahead and protect his brother, and Yosef is saying, you guys have made a mistake. Your whole life you thought that everything you did was just for your own specific desire, want, and need, but in reality, everything that happens because of God. We often suffer in life because we don't know why we're suffering. We don't know why we're going through this particular tragedy. We don't know why we're going through this hardship. And our sages teach us that if you believe that there is a God in heaven, and therefore he has a particular unique plan for us, he's going to guide us to a place where we're able to meet our unique mission, align ourselves with our mission so we could be the best versions of ourselves. That is what God wants from us. That is where God is taking us. That is the ultimate goal of life. God creates a universe so that he can give mankind good. The greatest good that man can have is a relationship with the Almighty. The way in which we discover that relationship is through his book called the Torah and its commandments. And in that space, we make choices. Those choices, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Those choices are often define the best parts of who we are, and unfortunately, sometimes they also define the worst parts of who we are. But no matter what happens, God is guiding us on the path. In Yosef's case, can you imagine what the guy went through? He was 22 years. He spent 22 years away from his family. 22 years in a place where he was locked away from the love of his father. He spent years in jail. He spent years being tortured by Potiphar and his wife. Not an easy life. The guy had every reason to be upset. He had every reason to take vengeance, every reason to be jealous of the relationship the brothers had with the father, that they stole this time away from him. And what does he do? He says, no. He says, I recognize now, he took ownership from a different person. I took ownership of my circumstances. I recognize that the suffering that I went through somehow is all for my benefit. I'm not going to allow myself suffer. The reason why most people suffer is because they don't know why they're going through that pain. But once they have that clarity, once it's clear what the pain is about, the challenge becomes somewhat more bearable. The challenge becomes a little bit more easy. It becomes something that I could carry with me. It changes me in a different kind of way. When we commit to this reality that everything that happens is gam zu l'tova, it's all good, you'll find yourself with the strength to overcome the situation. You could either allow yourself to wallow in the pain and the sorrow of your reality, that's your choice, or you could recognize that this choice, that the situation that you're in, like Yosef did, was part of God's greater plan. Was it painful? Yes. But in retrospect, how much sense did it make that Yosef was there? He saved his family. He was able to not only save his family, he's able to save the Middle East at that point from starvation. One country feeding the known world with grain. Egypt, by the way, this sounds very much like America. Egypt was a country of abundance. America is the breadbasket of the world today. We do the same thing over here. But Yosef back then, he figures this out and he's feeding the world. And he recognizes that everything, all that pain and suffering was part of God's greater plan. There is no room for the pain. I entitled this class To Be a Jew. And I know it's hard being Jewish. It's even more difficult being Jewish today in 2020, in 2021, almost 2022. It's more difficult than any time in history. We have more distractions than anyone else before us. We have a superficial understanding of what we think it means being Jewish. We have a different set of values when we're looking back at our own heritage and culture. It's hard, it's difficult, I get it. You know what? But there's two kinds of Jews. There's the kinds of Jews that take ownership and they're working to search for more meaning and clarity. And there's another kind that becomes apathetic and doesn't really care. The one that doesn't care, it's harder, much more difficult being a Jew. Very hard to find meaning in it when you're a spectator. You can just change the channel, you walk away, you don't think about it. But someone who's in it, who lives it, recognizes the beauty of every aspect of it. And maybe this is why one of the reasons why we give the brachot, the blessings we give our children on Friday night is Yevrecha, is may God bless you like Ephraim and Menashe. Right? Why like Ephraim and Menashe? Why not like Reuven and Shimon? Why not like Zevulun and Yisachar? Why not like Abraham and Yitzchak? Why not like any of the other Moshe and Aaron? Why is that we bless our children with the blessing of Ephraim and Menashe, the two sons of Joseph? This is important. Joseph and his sons represent two Jews born in exile. They looked like Egyptians. They were very much assimilated. They looked like they didn't have a proper, Jewish Israel education. Their education was in exile. They had a dual curriculum. But somehow, Yosef, Ephraim, and Menashe were all deeply, piously Jewish. They maintained their Judaism in exile. And this is why some people say when Yosef and Yaakov meet for that first time, and it says that Yosef falls on the shoulders of his father and he cries. And it doesn't say that about Yaakov. And the Midrashim tell us that Yaakov at that moment is saying Shema. You haven't seen your son in 22 years and now you're saying Shema. But you see, Yaakov, from his perspective, he understood that he was the heir to his grandfather's legacy, Judaism, Abraham's Torah, his Judaism. Yaakov is the one that's going to pass it down from father to son. But it's at that moment when Yaakov meets Yosef and he sees the impact that Yosef had on the Egyptian world, he realized that the God of Abraham wasn't just the God of Abraham and his descendants, but he was the God for all people, that its message was true for everyone. And at that point he says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It's about unity. It's all connected. Yosef understood that. He takes the message of his grandfather, his grandfather's great-grandfather, and he takes this and he uses it to build a Jew in exile, my friends. That's us. We bless our children like Ephraim and Menashe to remind us that it's possible to take our kids with us on this long journey. It's been so long from Abraham. It was 3,600 years ago. Maybe, no, 3,800 years ago. Right? The Torah was given 3,300 years ago. Okay? It's possible. But there's one common ingredient. There's one theme in this parasha, and that word is commitment. Are you ready to be committed to the situation you're in? Once Yosef committed himself to being in jail, committed himself to the situation that he's in, he recognizing that I trust there's God. He had bitachon, trust that there is a God who is good. Every situation that I'm in is just an expression of somehow him getting me to where I need to go. And with that, I'll deal with the suffering. I'll deal with the pain. The brothers didn't do that. They were shocked. They were shocked. At the end of our lives, to be a Jew means that I tried the best that I possibly can with what I was given to express my Judaism. I did the best with what I was given to be the best version of myself. I never lived life as a spectator. I was the guy playing the game. I was the guy in the field. I was the guy making the passes. I was the guy, I wasn't the cheerleader. Judaism doesn't last with fans. Judaism needs players. How do you play? You got to be committed to it. What does commitment look like? You got to try every day, 1%. One thing a day, a little bit every day. And you'll find yourself with the inspiration, the power, the energy, the ability to overcome whatever it is that you find yourself in. I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom, maybe a Shabbat of happiness, of health, maybe a Shabbat of clarity, maybe a Shabbat where you're finally able to commit to those things that you need to commit to so you could find the power, the courage to overcome them. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day. Be well.